They, after the rhythm and blues, they cut Greg loose, sent him to Japan. They got him a Japan trip for Inoki, sent him over to Japan, and Vince told me, he says, we're going to do something different with you. We don't have any spot for Greg. There's really not a spot for you guys in the tag team, but I want you to come and you're a great man on the microphone. I think you can do great things behind the camera. And I said, well, I told him, I said, Vince, I'm not sure if I'm ready to go behind the camera because I had some gas left in me. The tank wasn't empty. And he says, no, I think you'll be wonderful at it. What I didn't know was it's going to be a 3-man team. Vince, Daffy Duck, Roddy Piper, that you can't get a word in edgewise when he's talking, and myself. So I felt like I was really the odd man out in that crew, even though I struggled to try to make it work. And a lot of people said it was good. A lot of people say, hey, a 3-man team doesn't work well. And in most cases, it doesn't work well. But it will work if you have 3 guys who are on the same page. Roddy wanted to continue to be Roddy. He wanted to talk for an hour. And it didn't matter if he put the heels over or he put the baby faces over. He kind of took the middle of the road on everything. You know, I've never seen a change in the guy. He's always been, hey, good to see you. How you doing? How's your family? As if he cares. My dad just passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. You're not really sorry. You never even knew him. I mean, come on, Roddy. But his interviews were always at up-tempo, hyper kind of activity. That might have just been his way. And was he doing something out of the ordinary? I don't know. I never saw him.
One time he came to Florida for a while when he was freelancing, and they teamed him and I together, and we're driving down the road. It was the first time he ever saw an alligator. You know, I hope Peter doesn't get on me telling this story, but I think the statutes of limitations have ran out. He said, stop the car. We were on Alligator Alley where all the gators, covered from Tampa to Miami. I didn't know what he was going to do, take a picture, because as I stopped the car, he said, open the trunk. He opens the trunk and takes out a .45 Magnum and starts shooting at them. I thought, whoa. So what you're saying is Piper was on the edge?
I love the story where you guys caused a ruckus with Ric Flair at the bar and he ended up getting thrown out. But is there any other stories about Ric Flair at the clubs that people might not know about?
We were in England. There was a thing started with always the old guys, young guys, and then Piper was his guy, and Piper picked me to party with. So, don't do that. That was, God bless Roddy. He's not here no more, but that wasn't a challenge I would take on again, because that son of a bitch, he definitely...
There's a reason why he's not here anymore.
He's definitely a great guy and a great soul, but you don't want to, challenge him in anything, because Roddy Piper goes to the fullest, you know what I mean?
At what point did you first meet Roddy Piper?
I think I met Roddy in the Carolinas when we were down there together. We had an apartment together for a while. And traveled a lot, and then we got together in New York. When I went back in, he was already there, and we started doing a thing where I was the bodyguard.
Was it his idea to bring you in as the bodyguard because of your friendship?
I'm not sure if it was him or Vince or probably them, together. I never did meet with Vince and talk about stuff like that. Roddy did. So I'm pretty sure that Roddy had some input. And it was a good thing, it worked.
Yeah. What was being on the road with him like?
It was a blast. Never a dull moment. He could talk if you had a 5-hour trip, he could talk for 5 hours, no problem. Never repeat himself. And the next night do the same thing. You never hear the same story twice. He was just a blast. When you saw him on TV, you saw Roddy Piper. He was the same way. Now, I'm sure around his family and everything, no, but when he was with me, he was just rowdy.
My favorite one was when Sean and I accidentally got in a real fight, and Sean can't fight.
Clearly not, according to all the stories.
But we're leaving the hotel. It was Denver, our town. And hey, Sean, I love you, but stop telling this story wrong. Which you finally did stop doing it because you know I'm telling the truth. but we went. I got arrested, but because they didn't know me and Sean were wrestlers, and they didn't know. They just knew the guys in the hallway got in a fight at this hotel. We come and got me. I'm going downstairs, and as I'm going out cleaned up, Randy Savage is coming in. They didn't have no idea who I was, right? But Randy's coming around, Macho Man, oh my God, Randy Savage, oh my God. They're going crazy about Randy. And he's like, yeah, what's going on though with this? What's happening here? And they're like, well, big fight. He goes, oh no, brothers, that's what we did. And he didn't know yet. I mean, I had blood. It looked like on top of a deer, like gutting a deer. I had blood on my thighs right here. From what I mean, from on top, right here, covered, and they're pointing. He's like, "Oh, that's his partner. No, we work storylines. No, next time we're here, they're gonna." And they were pointing. That's what they were pointing, and they were like, "All that blood." He goes, blood capsules, brothers, haven't you heard? And they were just so they were so in love with him. And then they said, they asked for autographs, right? He goes, if you let my friend go, I'll sign your autographs. And that's what happened. They let me go to Randy. And they said if we have to come back, we got to take him to jail. And he goes, no, don't worry, I got him. Don't worry about that. And so it was over. He signed a few. Now, me and him were walking the elevators because he goes, brother, what the hell is going on?
So you're...
And then I woke up the next morning, and we had to be in Seattle, Washington. We had to be there for a show. I woke up and I look over because I used to party a lot, and I'm single, still single. And I looked over and I was like, oh man, I beat myself up. That's the ugliest girl ever. You know how we always talk about what do they call it where you chew your arm off, the wolf arm or something? I was pretty much like, God, that's ugly. Had pits in the face. I was like, ah, damn. Come on, man. Marty, what'd you do? Scooting away. And then they yawned, and I looked, and it was Roddy Piper. Roddy
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he took me to the room to get me away from, so we could stay away from each other. Randy.
That reminds me, now that I remember from his book, he said that fight had started because apparently Piper had said...
He stirred it.
Yeah. How did you get along with Piper?
I love him.
Obviously enough.
This is my brother. I love him, man. I got mad at him over that shit because he let me keep, you ain't supposed to hit your friends. Sometimes you might have to once. Okay, stop being a dick. But if another friend's there and it's just, you hear that, you need to make that stop. And he actually took the girls that were in the room with us. I say took them. They were trying hard, and he was to break it up. And he was pushing them back. They need to settle this. They got to settle like men.
Your famous dog collar match with Roddy Piper. What are your memories of that and the build up to that feud in one of the matches that people still talk about today?
Yeah, actually, I battled Roddy. I was the U.S. champ, and I battled Roddy for a long time up to that. And, Roddy was a great babyface, but in my opinion, better heel. But he was really good at both. But we wrestled each other a long, long time, and he told me about this thing he wanted to do with this dog collar, and he presented it to Jimmy Crockett and George Scott, I believe, or Ole, whoever was the booker back then, but mainly Jimmy Crockett. They went for it. And it started out, it was on my birthday, and I was doing a TV tape, and I had this big cake, and I went to cut it and pulled out this dog collar on television, and build it up for the dog collar match. And we did that. We talked about the dog collar match about 10 minutes before we went out to do it. And that's why it looks so real. Because we didn't sit there and talk about what we were going to do. We just ad-libbed it. And that's, you know, we had an ending, but the ending was kind of, but at the end, Roddy was going to get his Duke raised. It was a U.S. title match, but it was non-title. And we just made it a real gruesome match. And Piper had some little tricks that he told me that we could do with it by stretching the thing out, you know, on the chain, and because he brought that dog collar from Oregon. And so we said, let's go do it. Let's steal the show. Let's knock it out. This is for the people, because we got paid pretty good, but not nearly as much as we should have, you know. Should have been $100,000 or $1 million.
Yeah, that was the very first Starrcade, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was actually the very first pay-per-view for wrestling, but it didn't go into the cable at your home. You had to. It was closed-circuited, like they did boxing back years ago, and you could go see it in a theater or bar or something. I think of sports bars had it, you know.
And I was told you might have a story about Roddy Piper and a glass table at the wrap party of the movie.
Oh, come on. Yeah, just crazy. Oh my God. So, you know, we were there for 5-6 weeks. Never come home, you know. I miss my family, miss Mama and my kids. And, you know, we had a pretty big part of the movie. We were there for 5 to almost 6 weeks. Hotel, shoot the movie, come to a bar, eat, you little drink, you know, and young. And long story short, and a guy wanna challenge me arm wrestling. I said, oh, no, man. So, long story short, finally I don't know if I broke his arm but the table broke, and that's how it, erupt. That's how it erupt, and I just go crazy and tore apart and throw people to the wall, and someone called the police, and here come, I believe Piper was there, saw the whole thing. Well, bless his heart. Two skinny white boy come as a cop, and, you know, speak no English. I had a little English back then, you know. Whatever they told me, I didn't understand. Plus drinking, I grabbed them, double headbutt, you know, pressed. I mean, I had fun. Now more police come. See, I didn't know you touched and they wore uniform. I didn't know you touched you touching the police with the uniform, you get in trouble. I didn't know that. In Tonga, it's a total different rule, you know. But I didn't know that. Now more police come. So, oh my gosh. So the way they handle me, not the cop, they put me in a truck. Like you trap the animal. Trap here. I mean, oh my God, finally put me in a truck and take me to, I mean, it was a chaos.
Now, you are probably best remembered for your role in the movie Body Slam with Roddy Piper. Any memories of that?
Yes.
It was an awesome movie, by the way.
You know, I mean, I love doing. I wish I did movies before I wrestled. It was just so easy. But, you know, people always ask me this, you know, how was it doing that movie? I think the awesome thing about that is I had tagged with Rowdy Piper, because I'm always seeing him on the other side of the ring, you know. But now, when I did the movie with Piper, and for him to be my tag team partner or just tag team partner, it was awesome, man. Just great. I loved it, you know. I still got goosebumps thinking about that movie.
I've seen it numerous times. It's up on YouTube for any fan that hasn't seen it. It's a great movie where he is basically Roddy Piper's partner, and you start the whole rock and wrestling connection. Did you have to audition for that movie, or were you handpicked for the movie?
I think they sort of handpicked us because we were already fighting each other anyways, right, in WWF. So, and they just sort of just wanted to ride with that.
The last backstage fight or backstage altercation I'll ask you about, because you're probably very familiar with Piper, is the one that happened between Kevin Nash and Roddy Piper backstage. They both told very different versions of the altercation, but I'm wondering if you have the more neutral.
I don't. I wasn't there. I will tell you that I spent 6 weeks in a tour bus with Roddy Piper. I was the manager of his book tour in 2003. So I got to know Roddy real well. I heard his side of the story real well. And I got to hang out a lot and get really friendly with Kevin Nash in TNA. And I heard his side of the story. And unfortunately, unlike the Vader story, I wasn't in there, so I don't know. They certainly have two different stories. I usually say when there's two different stories, usually the truth meets somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I got the honor of being Roddy Piper's tour manager. We went all around the country in Billy Ray Cyrus's tour bus, so that was interesting.
What's your favorite story about Roddy Piper from that 6 weeks you spent with him, which must have been quite something?
Yeah, it was quite something. We were coming into Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, before it was the morning of we're getting in the morning of the Ohio State Michigan game. I don't know if you're from Canada, but Ohio State Michigan is a huge rivalry. So they had so I got a call from somebody and said we're having a tailgate party at 8 a.m. at a bar. Could Roddy stop by and say some words to psych up the Ohio fans? So I'm thinking, a tailgate party at 8 a.m. You know, maybe there'll be 100, 200 people there, maybe eating breakfast. I couldn't understand, but I said, Roddy, you want to do it? He goes, sure, because there were going to be television cameras there. That was the key. So we get to this bar, and literally at 7 a.m, there were 6,000 drunk fans at 7 a.m, packing this bar the day of that game. I've never seen so many drunk people at 6 a.m. in my life. And Roddy got out and gave this, the chew bubble gum thing, and gave this awesome speech, and the crowd went crazy, and we had a blast doing that. But that was a memory, because you never think you're going to pull up to a bar at 7 a.m. and there's going to be thousands and thousands of trash people that are there. But I guess that now my son went to college in not Ohio State, but a small D3 school right down the road, and I guess that's their thing they do.
And what's he like off camera as a real person?
Roddy, when he pays you, when you're working for Roddy wants you to do your job. But Roddy was one of the kindest people that you'd ever meet. He's always, hey, how you doing? Give you a hug, put his arm around you. How's the family? Very sweet personality. But when it comes to business, he doesn't mess around. If he didn't like something I was doing, he didn't hesitate to let me know he wasn't happy. So. As a businessman, he made you work hard. As a human being, he was a terrific guy.
You also worked with Roddy Piper, who's a massive legend. What was it like with him?
He is. He's a legend. Like, when it comes to the word legend, like Roddy Piper, my God, what an icon. And rightfully so. He was talented and bright, and he was a street kid at some point. And a street entertainer, played the bagpipes on the street. And I mean, like, to be a guy that made millions and tons of TV and movies, like, he's a success story. At the end of the day, he was a success story.
And you had an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel with him. Was that pretty cool?
Oh, Jimmy Kimmel is, yeah. I kind of got, while I was there and did that little work together, you kind of got close to them. The family was still welcoming. Uncle Frank, his mom, cousin Sal, his family went out to dinner. Like, they're classy guys, man. Very classy.
And Piper ended up slapping you too. Whose slaps were
but Piper's were way harder.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Cornette's was like an old woman, But Piper, his were in there, and he had to do it like, oh God. I thought someone was ribbing me, because we had to do it like 7 or 8 times, and I'm like, ooh. But he was kind of like, sorry, kid, but I gotta come. I'm like, I know, it's okay. But yeah, he was good.
He just gets really fired up, I guess.
You have to do, yay, man. I'm like, it's not gonna be any holes in my game. Sorry, you're gonna have to take one.
You're thrown into this angle, of course. Like, that's a dream angle of anybody. Hulk Hogan and Piper involved. What's your reaction when you actually show up to SmackDown and you're working with these guys?
Dude, I was just so overwhelmed. Like, it was so surreal. It would be surreal for me now as a 37-year-old to walk in and like work an angle with Hulk Hogan. But at 19, and this is the guy that I grew up watching, and man, that the whole scene was nuts because I'm sitting there in the arena, and I'm just watching the production put up the set and the big SmackDown fist, and I'm like the blue carpet, and I'm just like this. I'm like pinching myself, like, are you kidding me, dude? This is fucking nuts, man. And then uh, a, a page or an assistant grabs me and says, "Hey, we have to go to Hogan's dressing room and talk about the angle." So I'm like, okay, my heart starts beating real fast. I'm just following her up to the dressing room. And I walk into this dressing room, and there's Vince McMahon to the left. The first time I ever met Vince. He walks, "Hey, kid, how you doing? Great to have you on the team." Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. And then to my right is Roddy Piper. It's like, "Oh, kid, how you doing? Great to have you." And I'm just like, what the fuck, right? Like I'm like, this is nuts, dude. And then I hear the shower turn off, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, where's Hogan? I hear the shower turn off. Hogan walks out of the shower, naked as the day he is born. Just walks up to me, towel around his neck, sticks his hand out. "How you doing, brother? Nice to meet you. Glad you're here." And I'm just like, what is happening right now? I'm looking around like, where are the cameras? Like, is somebody punking me? Like, this is nuts. I'm like, put some clothes on, Hogan. He had shower shoes on, right? He had his flip flops, but that was it. He came out of the shower in his flip flops, naked as the day he was born, and that's how I met Hulk Hogan. Just naked as could be. Yeah.
Did he
And I'm
stay
19.
that way when they were going over the angle, or did he
I
put
think
some?
I was so traumatized that I don't even remember. I'm like, thanks a lot for ruining my childhood, brother. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's really funny. Did you notice any tension between Hogan and Piper? Because in the past, when they were fighting for those top spots, it was always discussed that they had had some heat.
Yeah, no, there was no tension, and Hogan was really, really easy to work with. And he was so generous and nice when he didn't have to be. So like after our segments or a match that I would have, he would sit down with me and explain like, "Hey, this worked and this didn't work, and how can we, improve next time?" And as someone who, I mean, I was so low on the card, and he's Hulk Hogan for crying out, he didn't have to do that. But the tension wasn't between Hogan and Piper. I think they got along fine from what I could see. I could kind of feel some tension between Piper and Vince, which led in a few weeks after we started this angle, Piper got fired for that interview he did. I don't know if it was with Bob Costas or somebody else, but there was some kind of interview that Piper did that Vince didn't like what he had to say, and he was fired. So like from my perspective, I'm like, oh, this is crazy, because not only am I in an angle with these guys and we're trying to get someplace, it's all been mapped out, but now a very key figure, a very key piece in this whole angle is gone. So what are we going to do now? And and then a few weeks after that, Hogan left. Like, I guess there was some dispute over his WrestleMania check or something, and then Hogan quit.
And what about Roddy Piper?
Oh, Roddy I worked in a movie, Body Slam, with Roddy. Tell you a couple Roddy Piper stories.
If anyone hasn't seen it, they should look it up.
Yeah, I have Roddy. He is one of the other guys I told you on a handful that I could not stop crying when Roddy passed away. The most sincerest, dearest, sweetest man I've ever known. Goes right up there with Jimmy Snuka and a few others that I could say on top of one hand. I could say that are above and beyond everybody, and there's Roddy Piper. But we're Hal Needham, one of the famous stuntmen and directors that directed Smokey and the Bandit movies in the 70s. Well, this is in 1985-ish, I want to say, that Body Slam came out. So Red Bastien, once again, my dear friend Red Bastien, calls me and says, "Bill, I need you to go to this
town. It's called Rubidoux, California. It's just a suburb of LA, about 50 miles out. Those are all suburbs of LA. When you're 50 miles, it's all just a little suburb. Runs right into the other. He says, they're shooting a movie called Body Slam, and I got a part for you. He says, I'm sure we'll cast you in something. Referee, ring announcing, wrestling, whatever. But I want you a part of it. They're using me as a technical advisor, so I'll get you involved. And I said, fine, Red, whatever you say is gold to me. So I went down with my partner, Tim Patterson, and they had a trailer set up outside of this little nightclub. And went in and talked to Piper, and I had known Roddy through the early years of the expansion of working for Vince. And he tells me, he says, I've got my choice of 2 teams, and I can only choose one team to use. Either you and this other big tall guy, this Tim Patterson. I'll use you, or I got these other guys, Pistol Pete and Buddha Khan, 2 other local wrestlers in LA. He says, I know them guys, and I don't want to work with them if I can help it. He said, I'd rather choose you guys. And I said, Roddy, whatever you want's good for me. So he tells Needham, these are the guys I'm going to use for this scene. And he said, Hal Needham says, cool. Roddy treated this movie as a total shoot to outsiders. 100% shoot, no work, nothing. He says, whatever we do in the ring, you sell it 100%. Well, in this scene, in the way it's hard. I think I have to go back and actually watch it myself. It's kind of like a fading scene of him and Fatu are like in a dressing room, remembering back on all their matches that they've had to let up to something in the movie. I haven't watched it in 20 years, honestly. And they're remembering back on highlights of matches. And I'm part of a highlight scene, fading in and out of the screen, myself and Tim Patterson. And in the actual match, I think like Fatu throws Patterson against the ropes and drop kicks him, and he takes a bump through the ropes, and then he does a dive out or something. And then I come in, and Piper does something to me, but I'm on the mat. He gets up on like the top rope or middle rope, comes down with a knee drop on me, and I'm selling that. And then he hooks me in a figure 4. And I'm like, yeah, I give. And that kind of a thing. But forgot to tell you one important thing. The scene, right before that scene was shot, he tells Hal Needham, stands right in the ring. This is why I'm so proud of Roddy. It's unheard of nowadays, but he told Needham in front of the whole crew and in front of the audience that they had, he says, this is a one-take deal. Get it straight. One time this match is going to happen. Only one. This is no repeat. This is serious stuff. My guys, these guys, their lives are on the line in this match. He says, so you got a camera over there. You got a camera over there. You got a camera back there. You got this camera by the ring here. He says, get it right, because it's one take only. And that's what it was. It was one take. We did this scene. I got paid a few $100s for it. I don't even remember now. Could care less. I probably would have done it for free. But Roddy, that was Roddy's mentality. When I got out of the ring, I was selling this figure 4 to everybody in this building. There was maybe 40, 50 production people and a bunch of fans or hired people were around the ring for this match. And singer Frankie Valli from the Four Seasons was there, because in this movie there was some band there that he was sponsoring or something. He was involved production wise with this band that they used in the movie. So Frankie Valli is standing off to the side, and I walk up to him. Of course, me being the mark I am, I wanted a picture with Frankie Valli. So I walk up to Frankie and introduce myself, and I'm limping. And he goes, man, he says, you chose a tough way to earn a living. And I go, yeah, well, I can't sing. I wish I could sing like you, my friend. I can't do that. I was big. I wasn't as big as I am now, but I'm 6'2". I was about 225 pounds. I said, it's what I do for a living. I've done it for 10 years now. And I ended up taking a nice picture with Frankie Valli. I took that opportunity to take a picture with Frankie Valli. But that was one of Roddy's memories I have with him. And the last time I saw Roddy was in 2011 at a fan convention in Los Angeles that I drove over, myself and Billy Graham. We went over from Phoenix here to LA for this convention. I can't remember what Wrestle Reunion something or whatever it was, Wrestle Reunion 5 or 2 or something in Los Angeles. A lot of great guys were there, Jimmy Hart and Roddy was there. And Roddy had a line of people, 150 people long, to get his autograph and take pictures with. And I came in through this backside of the line. And as soon as Roddy saw me, just stopped everything he was doing. He came over, gave me a big hug, and he whispers in my ear, he says, "Brother, dreams do come true." And I've had people ask me 1,000 times, because I've repeated this, what did he mean by that? And I said, you know what? I don't even care what he meant. It doesn't matter. It's your interpretation of what he meant. He was living life, and he was happy, and he made me happy every time I was ever around him. And I just absolutely loved Piper. He was just the sweetest guy. And that there's not enough words to describe Roddy Piper. And I cried like a little tiny baby. Cried as much for him as when my mom died.
There was a fan that mentioned they remembered you from the tag team pilot or something starring Piper and Jesse Ventura.
And again, thanks to Vince and Pat Patterson and everybody in Chief having faith in me as a ring announcer in 1990, I believe it was. I showed up at the LA Sports Arena. I was going to be doing the announcing that night. And Strongbow comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Billy," he says, "we have a TV crew down here. They're going to film a TV show and they want you to be the announcer for the show." And I go, "Okay, what's all this involved?" He says, "Well, it's Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura are going to wrestle Pat Tanaka and it was an Akio Sato, I think. I don't even know. And Mr. Fuji's their manager. He says they're going to work with those guys in a match, a special match. The fans know nothing of this match because Piper is retired and Ventura couldn't wrestle, supposedly. I mean, he had a blood clot in his lung and all this other. He couldn't work anymore. So he said this is an added match. And he says, but this is added onto the show, so we're going to pay you more to do this match. And I was like, I didn't tell him. I could care less. I'd have done it for free. I'm a pro. How am I going to complain ring announcing for Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura? It's an honor. So they ended up doing this match, and the fans, oh my God, they popped on it when they saw the cameras out there and they saw Piper come out. To them, he's their local boy in LA. He started out there in the 75, whatever it was. So Piper was homegrown to them, and Ventura. So it was like, it was a godsend to the fans that were there to see whatever Hulk Hogan, whoever else was on the show that night, whatever it was, Andre. And there you got Piper and Ventura for the tag team show. And it was the pilot. And so I got paid, I think they paid me $800 in addition to my night's pay, which was far more than I was paid as a ring announcer, a lot more. And they gave me my Screen Actors Guild card.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.